Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over both the early and main slate on DraftKings for Thursday, June 28th. 5-game early slate today and a 4-game night slate. I will cover both slates, got my 5 plays already plugged in. I'll talk about why I chose these guys. I'll talk about the pitchers I like, the 2 pitchers I have plugged in and why I chose them. I'll talk about the other pitchers, go over some stacks and BVP plays as well. But before we do get started, guys, like always, make sure you give the video a like. Definitely would appreciate it. And if you are new to the channel and you have not subscribed yet, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. But yeah, pitcher today on the early slate, I don't like the top options here. We have Clayton Kershaw and Sean Manaea. Kershaw 11,700 and Manaea 10,800. Kershaw's facing the Cubs at home. I think it's a decent matchup. The Cubs, the lineups they've been rolling out lately have been pretty gross. They put Chris Bryant on the DL, so he's not going to be in the lineup. You do still have Almora, though. You got Contreras in there, Baez. These guys are good versus righties. Hayward and Rizzo, not heavy strikeout guys, but will strike out a little bit versus the lefties. But I am expecting Kershaw to be on a pitch count here, and that's kind of the main reason I don't want him today, especially at this price tag. He hasn't been himself lately. Kershaw just hasn't been dominant. And I'm not going to pay $11,700 for him, especially not when he hasn't been as good as we expect him to be. Maybe if he was cheaper, I'd think about it, but not interested in Kershaw. Really don't want Manaea either versus the Tigers. I could definitely see Manaea putting up a solid game, but I feel like I could get similar production to Manaea for a lot cheaper. And that's kind of where I landed on Jon Gray. I love Jon Gray here versus the Giants. Jon Gray is going to be at a Coors Field, which we really like. In AT&T Park, the best pitchers park, Great ballpark to pitch in. Jon Gray is a guy that has a ton of upside. Just look at his last 3 games, 10, 9, and 12 strikeouts in those 3 games. The Giants will strike out versus righties. Gray has struggled against the Giants twice this year, only putting up an average of 2.2 DK points. The Giants have really roughed him up. I do believe one of those games was in Coors, and then one of them was in AT&T. They played on May 30th in AT&T, and Gray did pretty poorly, 3 1/3 innings, 4 runs, 5 strikeouts, 5 strikeouts, 3 walks, 4 DraftKings points. That game was actually in Coors, and then the one in AT&T, he really struggled as well. But I feel like Jon Gray could definitely put up a solid game here at 9,500. I think he has a lot of upside to pay off that price tag. Then my second guy, Michael Fulmer. I do like Michael Fulmer here at home versus the Athletics. Fulmer's been good lately. His last 3 outings putting up 24, 22, and 20 DraftKings points. He's not a heavy strikeout guy, but this is an Oakland team that will strike out versus righties. Look at their projected lineup, especially when you get to the bottom there with Piscotty, Simeon, Lucroy, Barreto. You've got strikeouts there. Chris Davis will strike out. Dustin Fowler strikes out at a decent rate. Do like Michael Fulmer here. I like his $7,900 price tag. I think that's very affordable. Go in Fulmer and Gray. I think that leaves you like $4K remaining, so definitely can pay up for bats. But then other pitchers, really not a lot I love besides Gray and Fulmer. I think if you were to go cheap, Chris Stratton maybe at $6,900 could be a play, but I think I'd rather just try and find the $1,000 to get up to Fulmer. Gray and Fulmer are kind of really the 2 guys I'm focused on this early slate. But yeah, looking at bats, love the Twins today. As you can see, got 3 Twins in my 5 plays. Starting off with Logan Morrison. I think he's a great play here versus Giolito. We'll just go through all these guys: Morrison, Escobar, Rosario. Like all of them. I like Joe Mauer if you want to play Joe Mauer. Dozier, you can play. But like that 2, 3, 4, that's where I'm really looking to go today. Giolito's just so bad. The dude's not a good pitcher. He doesn't strike people out. He just throws the ball in the zone. He gets hit hard a lot. And I think the Twins are definitely in play here. If you need value, you can look to Max Kepler, who's $3,300. I mentioned Mauer leading off $3,600. Love the Twins today. They're cheap. Allow you to pay up for the pitchers if you choose to do that. And I think they have a lot of upside here versus Giolito. So yeah, stacks. It's the Twins. That's really the stack I'm focused on. I think another stack that could be interesting is the Mariners versus this Jimmy Yacobanis guy, who I don't even know who that is, but the Mariners have a 5.2 implied run total. Would prefer the Twins over the Mariners, but you can definitely get a little bit of both, especially if you go with Fulmer and Gray. And then BVP plays, we'll go over these quickly for the early slate. It's only 4 plays, I believe. Anthony Rizzo, 5 for 14, 2 home runs versus Kershaw. Logan Forsythe, 5 for 11 with the home run versus Quintana. Andrew McCutchen, 7 for 12 versus Jon Gray, and Duberhair, that's on the main slate. So those are the 3 BVP plays we got on the early slate. No PVB, so that's really it for the early slate, guys. these are my 5 plays: John Gray, Michael Fulmer, Logan Morrison, Eduardo Escobar, and Eddie Rosario. Now we'll go ahead and move on to the night slate. 4 games on the night slate. A slate that also has some top pitching options. We have 2 guys over 10K here. Aaron Nola gets to face the Nationals at home for $12,100. Lance McCullers, $11,100, gets to face the Rays in Tropicana. Just choosing one of these guys, I think I'm going to take the discount off of Nola and roll with Lance McCullers here. I just love this matchup versus the Rays. The Rays strike out a ton. They're a terrible offensive team. You look at their projected lineup, there are just so many strikeouts in this lineup, a ton of bad hitters as well. That top 4, I would say, is pretty decent with Kiermaier, Duffy, Bowers, and Ramos. But once you get to like Wendell through Adames, just a ton of strikeouts there, a ton of bad hitters. Love Lance McCullers here. I think he has a ton of upside. If you want to go with Nola, I don't mind that, but I could easily see McCullers outscore Nola. McCullers is $1,000 cheaper. With how, I really don't like any cheap SB2s. Rourke's the cheapest SB2 I got is $7,100. So I really need all the savings I can get. So I'll take the savings off of Nola and roll with Lance McCullers. But yeah, SB2 landed on Tanner Roark here. SB2 is pretty gross. I think Roark could definitely be the guy that just gets it done for you, gets you 15 to 20 DK points. He gets a matchup against the Phillies. The Phillies are definitely a team I haven't picked on a ton this year, but I think this is a spot where Roark can have some success. The Phillies will strike out. They're definitely dangerous, though. They do have really good hitters in their lineup, but still there are a lot of strikeouts in that lineup. They only have a 4.4 implied run total. It's pretty much impossible to play Aaron Nola and Lance McCullers, so you've got to find a cheap SB2. That's kind of where I landed on Roark. Junior Guerra in Great American against the Reds. I don't know if I want to go there, especially when he's 8,200. Guerra's been good lately, but the Reds have been a hot team. They're not striking out a ton either. I'm not sure if I really want to go to Guerra. Berea versus Boston, definitely not going there. Desclafani against the Brewers, won't be going there. Really the only guy I would think about considering would be Brian Johnson. Just because he's 5,500, he's dirt cheap. If he gets me 10 to 15 DK points, I think that could be good enough on this slate. But really don't know how deep he's going to pitch into the game. I believe he's making a spot start or something. I know he has started once for the Red Sox this year. I think he did throw a decent amount of pitches when he started. It's not in the 10-game game log, I don't think. Because none of these last 10 games he's thrown over 60 pitches. Against Detroit, 4 innings, 56 pitches. That might have been the game he started. But anyway, Brian Johnson, I guess. Not really a guy I'm thrilled about, though. It's really Roark. SP2 is terrible on this slate. So I've kind of landed on McCullers and Roark. Still leaves you decent salary if you do want to try and fit in an expensive bat or two. I think we are going to want some of the Red Sox today, and they are expensive. Versus Berea, they've got a 5.6 implied run total. You know the guys on the top of that lineup are going to be expensive. But you can find some value in the middle there with Moreland, Devers, Brock Holt, who is in the projected lineup for 3.6. That's kind of where I landed on with those 2 guys, Moreland and Devers. Both very cheap, 4,300 and 4K. Moreland, we know, dude's been hitting the ball very good lately. Been great for fantasy. Last 4 games, 22, 15, 16, and 5 DraftKings points. Has a ton of power. Berea's not a pitcher I believe in. Moreland's been very good versus righties. Berea's a bad right-handed pitcher. I think things are pretty simple here. You want the Red Sox today. Moreland's cheap, getting some cheap exposure to that lineup. Him and Devers, both 2 guys I really like. Same thing pretty much goes for Devers as it did for Moreland. Just he's cheap. He's exposure to that offense that's going to score runs. Only 4K, should be batting at least 5th or 6th. Just good value there. I really like Rafael Devers at third base, Moreland at first base. You're looking for value. I think both of those guys make sense. And then Ryan Braun, a guy that I like here versus Desclafani. Desclafani, definitely a pitcher I want to pick on with some bats. I couldn't get to Yelich or to Thames, Shaw, because those guys are kind of expensive. At least Shaw, if he's in the lineup, you could go to at 4,300, but really hard to play Thames and Yelich at 51 and 52, especially if you're wanting to pay up for McCullers or Aaron Nola. So that's kind of where I landed on Ryan Braun here. 4,200 versus Desclafani. Like I said, Desclafani, not a pitcher I believe in. Do really like the Brewers here. I think both sides of this game is definitely in play. If you can try and find the value with Barnhart, Shaw, Braun, Hernan Perez, VR, Winker, definitely look to some of the value from this game. Could see it sneakily being a high-scoring game. I really like Ryan Braun here. Prefer him versus lefties, but the guy can still hit righties pretty well. But yeah, guys, these are my 5 plays for the night slate. Lance McCullers, Tanner Roark, Mitch Moreland, Rafael Devers, and Ryan Braun. I didn't talk much about the other pitchers, but I pretty much said it. McCullers, Roark, and Aaron Nola are kind of the 3 guys I'm focused on. If you're just Wanting to punt, you understand the risk. Maybe you go to Brian Johnson at 5,500, but that is definitely a play I'm not going to be too heavy invested on. And then I mentioned stacks. We'll go over those, but stacks for me are the Red Sox. I think both sides of this Brewers-Reds game can be in play if you want to get some value there. But if we're talking about full team stacks, the Red Sox for me, number one on this slate. 5.6 implied runs total. You definitely want exposure to them versus Berea. But yeah, then looking at BVP, we'll talk about some BVP plays on this night slate before we get out of here. It looks like we got about 5 BVP plays. Abdul Herrera, great BVP versus Tanner Roark, 15 for 34 with a home run. Bryce Harper, 5 for 14 with a home run versus Aaron Nola. Daniel Murphy, 8 for 21 with the home run versus Nola. And Michael Taylor is 4 for 10 with the home run. Adam Duvall and Joey Votto have both hit Guerra well. Adam Duvall, 3 for 12 with 2 home runs. And Joey Votto, 3 for 11 with the home run. In the PVB, there is no PVB on the early slate or the main slate. Zach Greinke has bad PVB versus the Marlins, but that game's not on the DK early slate. So yeah, guys, that's really it for this video. That's really it for the main and early slate. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Hopefully it helped you. If you did enjoy, guys, just make sure you give the video a like before you get out of here. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe. And if you have any questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT, or feel free to leave a comment down below, and I will get back to you guys as soon as I can. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And good luck tonight on this slate, guys. Peace.